So we've got two major launches happening on the exact same day, Promenade Peak and RiverGreen. They are both in River Valley, both drawing very serious attention. And if you are in the market, chances are you are considering both. And that's why I'm doing this video to give you a clear side-by-side comparison, because here is the thing. Buyers will be putting checks on both ends. And come booking day, right, it's only going to be very, very messy and you only get one queue number. So you need to be very, very clear on number one, what's your budget? Number two, which stack are you aiming for? And if your ideal unit has been taken, are you prepared to pivot? Also, let's say if you're comparing the same unit type, one project gives you more superior layout, but the other one is $150,000 cheaper. Which one would you go for? These are the kind of decisions you don't want to be making under pressure. So, now, why is this your opportunity in the River Valley area? If you have seen my earlier video on the 80,000 new homes entering the market, you will know that the River Valley area with 5 launches will present some opportunities. If you have missed it, I would strongly suggest you to watch it, and I will link it on the top right corner over here. So let's break it down properly so you understand where you stand before the booking day. If you'd like to get the latest updates on Promenade Peak and RiverGreen, join my Telegram channel. I'll be posting on floor plans, price updates, and early insights there. And if you're keen to attend the preview or have any questions, feel free to drop me a message at 8102-1221. So let's take a quick look at the developers behind Promenade Peak and RiverGreen. Promenade Peak is by All Green Properties, a well-established name that has delivered large-scale projects like River Sail, high-rise projects like Sky Suites at Anson, and premium freehold units like One Devonshire. Their track record shows consistency across different market segments, from mass market to the core central area. On the other hand, RiverGreen is by Wing Tai Asia, another experienced and reputable developer. You might know projects like the M at Middle Road, Novell 18, and the Lake Garden Residences. Their project, I feel, tends to be a little bit more focused on design-conscious living, often in well-connected and central locations. Wing Tai's approach usually leans towards quality detailing, functional layouts, and strong emphasis on lifestyle-driven elements. So while both developers are reliable and experienced, their styles are actually quite distinct. All Green actually goes to large scale and efficient, while Wing Tai leans towards more lifestyle focus. So let's break down the project information for both Promenade Peak and RiverGreen. Here we have RiverGreen and here we have Promenade Peak. Technically speaking, they are in different districts. Promenade Peak is actually in District 3, but RiverGreen is in District 9. But in reality, right, they are both located within the same River Valley neighborhood, just a few minutes apart. And Promenade Peak is the larger of the two projects with 596 units, and it offers a full range of 1+ study all the way to 5-bedroom and penthouses. So if you're looking for more options or multi-gen suitability, you've got a little bit more flexibility here at Promenade Peak. RiverGreen, on the other hand, we have 524 units in a singular block. The layout range is slightly more focused from 1 bedroom to 4 bedrooms, which makes the development a little bit more compact. So now let's talk about the location. RiverGreen is closer to Great World MRT, which is connected to Great World City Mall via the MRT Linkway. But that being said, right, Promenade Peak is just 2 minutes walk to Great World City as well. So in terms of convenience and access to lifestyle amenities, both projects are honestly very, very strong. So let's take a look at the actual map. You can see how close these two developments actually are to each other, just across this river canal. RiverGreen sits right next to Great World MRT Exit 1, while Promenade Peak is just a short walk across Zion Road, roughly around 2 minutes to Great World City, and also it is fully sheltered to Havelock MRT Exit 4. So even though they are in different districts, right, they are practically neighbours, and both of them offers strong convenience and connectivity. So let's take a look at the overall building and the layout stacks for both Promenade Peak and RiverGreen. Promenade Peak is a 63-story tower, one of the tallest residential buildings in Singapore, and the height will give it a strong presence. And on the top floors, right, from level 44 to 62, you will find that there are 4-bedroom and 5-bedroom premium units, ranging from 1,421 square feet to 1,884 square feet, also with private lift access. Level 63, we have the penthouses, we have 2 units. And then you have the level 2 to level 62, where you have the 3-bedroom and 3-bedroom premium with private lifts, ranging from 1,033 square feet to over 1,195 square feet. So on the lower levels, which is level 2 to level 44, they are mostly made up of 1 plus study, 2-bedroom plus study layouts, and these start from around 527 square feet, going up to around 800 square feet. So on top of that, there are actually 3 main peaks in the building. We actually have the Sky Peak, which is the rooftop with an infinity pool and lounge. The Wellness Peak, which is on level 43, there's a gym and fitness level. And the Social Peak on level 22, there are some pools, garden lounges. And lastly, the Grand Promenade with the 50-meter lap pool, function rooms, and even a pickleball court and a bowling lawn. So we move on to RiverGreen. It's actually one tower of 36 stories with 524 units. It is lesser in height, but it is still quite generous in their offerings of facilities. They include 48 lifestyle facilities such as the 50-meter lap pool, clubhouse, stargazing deck with panoramic views, and even a sky loft bar. For parking wise, right, RiverGreen offers 269 car park lots with 20 EV charging stations and 40 EV ready lots. So they are very EV conscious. There are also quite a number of family bicycle lot with 150 slots. There is also sheltered pathway and direct access to Great World MRT right at your doorstep. So again, Promenade Peak actually leans toward a tall, layered and expensive, while RiverGreen focus on functional integration, lifestyle amenities, and direct transport convenience. So let's take a look at the site plan for Promenade Peak. So the building is actually split into 3 main sections, which is the Promenade Collection on the lower floors. And we also have the Promenade Suites, which is level 44 and above. And a dedicated Sky Terrace, which is actually on level 43. For levels 2 to 42, you will find mostly 1 to 3 bedroom units with 12 units per floor, and these are part of the Promenade Collection. They have practical layouts, efficient sizes, and well designed for both investors and smaller families. And level 44 and up is where it gets more exclusive. This is where we have the Promenade Suites. We have the larger 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, and 5-bedroom premium, each with its own private lift access. And there is only 6 units per floor here, which means there is more privacy and quieter corridor experience. And then right at the top, we have our penthouses, which is 2 units. Another thing to note is that the floor to ceiling height for the Promenade Suites collection is at 3.325 meters as compared to the lower floors where they have 3.15 meters, which gives you the extra volume and ceiling height you would expect in a luxury tier condo. So now let's take a look at RiverGreen's site plan. So again, this is a single 36-story tower with 524 units spread across 15 stacks. So compared to Promenade Peak, right, it's more compact. The layout is still highly efficient and well thought out. At the base, the tower sits on elongated site that stretches from Kim Seng Road all the way to River Valley Green, which allows full-length landscape deck. And you will also find the 50-meter lap pool, your clubhouse, gym, kids play area, and even some co-working pods, all integrated into this long linear green space. And there is also the Sky Garden at the rooftop level, and that's where residents can enjoy the panoramic views and even bar-style social spaces similar to that of a concept of a rooftop lounge. So if we look at the stack plans, right, stacks 1 to 15 wraps around a common corridor with units ranging from 1 to 4 bedrooms. It is worth noting that even though there is no private lift access here, the 3 and 4 bedrooms have corner positions, which gives you better privacy and views. So the unit distribution on the right shows a fair mix across all levels, with the 3 to 4 bedders again occupying the corner stacks. So now we have covered both site plans and the unit distribution. Let's talk about what really matters, which is the pricing. So this slide shows an estimated price mapping for Promenade Peak, assuming the top floor is priced at 3,300 PSF. I have derived this based on Allgreen's typical pricing strategy, and if you look at their past launches, right, the price increment per floor is usually at 0.5% from floor to floor. So this allows this mapping to follow that same trend. So if we take level 62 to be pegged at 3,300 PSF, and then we work backwards, right? The lowest floor, which is on level 2, would start around $2,455 per square foot. And that gives us a likely range of $2,455 per square foot to $3,300 per square foot, using a 3-bedroom as a gauge for this estimation. And to be honest, right, $3,300 per square foot is probably the ceiling, because we have actually calculated $3,400 and $3,500 here as well. I feel that if there's anything beyond this, it will probably be hard to move, especially in this market when there are so many new launches and new options nearby. Buyers are already comparing projects very closely, so this price band keeps Promenade Peak positioned very firmly in the new launch bracket, but it is still within what's considered realistic and competitive, particularly for the higher floors, which comes with private lifts and stronger unblocked views. So let's zoom in into the pricing prediction for the 3-bedroom private lift, the 4-bedroom private lift, and the 5-bedroom private lift, especially for those above level 44, where the layout actually shifts to a larger premium units because of the private lifts. And because of how Promenade Peak is structured, right, only the larger unit starts from level 44 onwards. There is no direct price comparison with the same stack between smaller and larger units across different floors. So to estimate the price, right, we actually look at a similar scenario actually happening in Juniper Hill. So in this example, both 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms are in the same stack. And we did notice that the 4-bedder transacted at around 0.8% lower in PSF as compared to the 3-bedder. Likely because bigger units naturally command a lower PSF, even though the total quantum is higher. So we use this guide and we apply the PSF adjustment to the larger units at Promenade Peak. For the 3-bedroom with private lift, we will use an estimate of 0.8% less than the standard 3-bedroom PSF. And for the 4-bedroom premium with private lift, we use a 1% reduction. And for the 5-bedroom with private lift, we adjust 2% lower. So example, if the top floor 3-bedder would be 3,300 PSF, the 5-bedder might come in close at $3,231 per square foot based on this pricing model. This gives us a more realistic and layered view of what buyers might expect to pay, especially for those targeting on the premium high floor units with private lift access. So now for RiverGreen, we have applied the same 0.5% per floor increment as we did for Promenade Peak, and because RiverGreen only has 36 stories, that same step up compresses into fewer levels, which means the starting PSF on level 2 would be around $2,783 per square foot. So we've assumed the top floor, which is level 36, to stay at $3,300 per square foot to remain competitive with Promenade Peak. This would position RiverGreen as a strong contender, especially since it's right next to Great World MRT. And what is different here is how the unit types are being distributed. So RiverGreen spreads across its 1 to 4 bedroom layouts across all the floors, rather than reserving the premium units for the higher levels. So even though you're paying more from the get-go, you're also getting more equal access to unit types regardless on which floor you are on. So let's break down the unit mix between Promenade Peak and RiverGreen, because this actually says a lot about each project's target audience. So we start with Promenade Peak. The mix is a little more evenly spread out. Roughly 54% of their units is actually under the 2-bedroom category. This includes the standard 2-bedroom and the 2-bedroom plus study layouts. And then you have the 1 plus study at 13%, followed by a decent proportion of 20% for the 3, 4 and even 5-bedroom premium units, plus the 2 penthouses at the top. So it's a very balanced development, clearly designed to cater to a mix of buyers, investors, young couples, families or even multi-generational household. So now let's switch to RiverGreen. The unit mix here is actually more compact. Around 50% it will be with the 2-bedders, whether is it compact, premium or study. But the key difference between Promenade Peak and RiverGreen is that no units in RiverGreen goes beyond 1,000 square foot. Even the 4-bedroom maxes out at 980 square feet. So RiverGreen is clearly geared towards efficient living with smaller quantum entry points, making it attractive for investors or couples who prioritize location and convenience over internal space. So now let's take a look at 1-bedroom units, and this one's unique because only RiverGreen offers them. For Promenade Peak, it starts with 1 plus study, but if you're looking for a pure 1-bedroom layout, RiverGreen is your only option between the two. So let's dive into the 1-bedroom layout at RiverGreen. There are 2 layouts, there's A1 and A2, both at 420 square feet. One of them is east facing, which is stack 5, and stack 1 is north facing. However, when you actually look closely into the layout, there is no major difference in livability between these two. The only variation between these two floor plans is actually the aircon latch and the AC latch, which are non-strata anyway. So from a functional perspective, basically these two are identical. So let's talk about pricing. RiverGreen has just released their guide price of 1.2 million for 1-bedders, and I have mapped out using a 0.5% per floor jump, just like I did with Promenade Peak. So this puts their highest 1-bedder on level 36 to be about 1.42 million. So to make this more meaningful, right, we have actually calculated the rental yield using Irwell Hills medium rent, which is about $4,230 per month, or roughly $9.40 per square foot. So what you see is that the rental yield actually still remains healthy from 3.6 all the way to 4.2 range, depending on the level that you buy into, and I feel that it's quite decent for a CCR product, especially in today's market. But here is one of the key points that I would like to highlight. Once the 1-bedder price crosses 1.393 million, which happens to be around level 32, you are now entering at the same price as Promenade Peak's 1 plus study. That is the red line that you see over here, and that's where buyers may start to cross-shop between two projects. But if you're buying for investment, there is definitely a sweet spot for the low to mid floors where your rental yield remains high and your entry quantum stays below that crossover point. So let's move on to the 1-bedroom plus study category, and this time we've got units both available in Promenade Peak and RiverGreen. So let's compare how each project approaches in this unit type. When we look at the 1 plus study layouts for both RiverGreen and Promenade Peak, truth be told, there is not a very huge difference in functionality. RiverGreen's unit comes at 452 square feet, while Promenade Peak is slightly larger at 527. But in terms of actual layout planning, both of them kind of follows a standard linear configuration. The entryway leading into the kitchen, and then the study is actually tucked away in one corner, followed by the living and dining and the bedroom areas. So you'll notice similar zoning across for both projects, study area on one side and a single bathroom, which gives you a decent sense of separation between the living and the resting spaces. So Promenade Peak probably offers a little bit more breathing room simply because they are larger in size, but the difference is marginal and I don't think it's actually huge enough to drastically change how you live in that space. So if you are choosing between the two, it's probably going to come down to pricing rather than the layout superiority. So that is what we are going to go into next. So when we compare the 1+ study pricing across both projects, we have mapped out the prices based on developers' guide ranges and apply the same 0.5% per floor increment. On the RiverGreen side, the 1+ study starts at around 1.2 million on the lower floors and it goes up to 1.53 on the top. So I have marked a zone 1 in yellow. This covers level 2 all the way to level 18 where the pricing stays below Promenade Peak's 1+ study entry price. So if you are strictly comparing quantum for quantum, zone 1 at RiverGreen gives you the most value. However, once you hit level 19 and above, zone 2, which is in blue, and the prices at Promenade Peak actually starts to overlap each other, around 1.4 million and beyond. So now switching over to the Promenade Peak side, right? The 1+ study units start at a slightly higher price, but also come with a slightly larger unit at 527 square feet. So within this range, right, you actually get a decent number of options across both projects. And the layouts, as we saw earlier, are not significantly different. However, if you actually cross the $1.5 million mark, especially on the higher floors of Promenade Peak or RiverGreen, that's when the pricing overlaps RiverGreen's 2-bed, 1-bath, and that is the real trade-off. So the key question becomes, right, if you are spending 1.5 million, would you rather stretch for a 2-bedroom or stay with a 1+ study on a higher floor? The price band gives you a very clear decision window, and knowing where each unit type sits helps you avoid overpaying without real functional gain. So in this segment, we are comparing RiverGreen's 2-bed, 1-bath with Promenade Peak's 1+ study because both of them are exactly at the same size of 527 square feet. All 4 units here, regardless whether it's RiverGreen's 2-bed, 1-bath or Promenade Peak's 1+ study, they are all at 527 square feet. So between RiverGreen's B1 and B2 types, there is no difference in the livable space. The only difference is in the orientation, where this is the east facing and this is the west facing. But the usable layout is practically the same. What you do get at RiverGreen though is an enclosed kitchen and a proper second bedroom. So for the same square footage, right, you're essentially getting a more functional setup, especially for buyers who would need more room or plan to rent to 2 tenants. It is an efficient use of space where there's no wasted corridor space or any weird corners, just a very, very compact layout. So let's look at price and rental yield. So we start with price. Once you go above level 16 at Promenade Peak, you'll be already hitting the 1.5 million mark, and at the same quantum, you could be getting a 2-bed, 1-bath at RiverGreen. And if let's say you are already looking at RiverGreen's 2-bed, 1-bath, and if you're willing to stretch about 100,000 more, you will be entering into RiverGreen's 2-bed, 2-bath range, especially when you cross level 24. So now on the rental side, if let's say we take Irwell Hill residence as a benchmark, the median rent for a 1-bedroom plus study is $4,230 per month, while the 2-bed, 1-bath is about $5,357 per month. So for rental yield wise, the 2-bedroom layout performs better, and that brings us to the real question. If you are already spending 1.5 million, does it make more sense to go for a proper 2-bedroom unit that offers better functionality and better rental potential? At that point, it's not really just about what you prefer, it's about whether you are getting more value for your money. So let's look at 2-bed, 2-bath units both at RiverGreen and Promenade Peak. So here are all the 2-bed, 2-bath layouts at both projects. RiverGreen's version is the compact 603 square feet, and it comes with 2 mirrored layouts, one in the east and one in the west. And this 2-bed 2-bath is your typical dumbbell layout with the bedrooms on either side and the living room is right in the middle. And you get an enclosed kitchen, which is actually a plus. And the layout itself is pretty efficient. There is no wasted space on corridors and entryways. Just to note that there are no windows in the kitchen or the bathroom. So now moving on to Promenade Peak's 2-bedroom, they are slightly larger at 657 square feet all the way to 689 square feet. The layouts are also pretty similar, but the only notable difference is the kitchen layouts, and that's about it. The bedrooms are all tucked to one side rather than the dumbbell layout, and similar to that of RiverGreen, there are no windows in the kitchen and the bathrooms. So I think in short, right, RiverGreen actually focuses more on compact efficiency, while Promenade Peak gives you more internal space. But at this point, not all of them is usable depending on the layout preference. So let's compare the 2-bed 2-bath units at RiverGreen and Promenade Peak. And to make sense of the pricing, we are breaking them down into zones based on one simple question. Is it worth it topping up 100,000 more for an enclosed kitchen? So here's how I look at it. Zone 1 is RiverGreen from level 2 to level 19, priced around 1.72 to 1.87 million. At this level, right, you are actually already getting a 2-bed 2-bath with an enclosed kitchen, which to be honest, this is what most people would prefer. And for the same amount, right, Promenade Peak doesn't really give you that, so I think RiverGreen is a clear choice here. And Zone 2 is Promenade Peak, which is around level 2 to level 15, ranging from 1.68 to 1.8 million. And this is where Promenade Peak starts to become attractive. Because once RiverGreen's pricing goes beyond 1.87 million, the top-up isn't just 100,000 anymore. And Promenade Peak's lower floors would start to appeal for buyers who are trying to stay below 1.8 million, even without an enclosed kitchen. And then we come back to RiverGreen for Zone 3 between level 20 to 31, which is priced from 1.88 million to 1.98 million. So once Promenade Peak goes beyond the 1.8 million range, RiverGreen becomes worth considering again. And if you can stretch your budget by that 100,000, you are getting an enclosed kitchen and an arguably more efficient layout. Zone 4, we go back to Promenade Peak with levels from 16 all the way to 25, which is priced from 1.8 million all the way to 1.88 million. At this point, RiverGreen is actually closing to 2 million. So if let's say today you want to stay under 1.9 million, higher floors in Promenade Peak would appeal more, especially if the views and elevation are your priorities. Zone number 5 is RiverGreen, now sitting just under the $2 million cap. And honestly, once you're above the 2 million mark for 2-bed 2-bath, the value, in my opinion, starts to taper off. Because some buyers might think, should I top up just another 250,000 and go for a 3-bedroom instead? For a long-term perspective, that could make more sense. Now, something else to keep in mind, the market has already shown that buyers are willing to pay premium prices. Over at Irwell Hill Residence, 2-bedders have already transacted at 2.23 million, even with open concept kitchens. So when you consider that RiverGreen caps around 2 million range for its top-end 2-bedders with enclosed kitchen, I feel that there is still some room for growth. If you're comparing these two side by side and you're willing to spend a little bit more, I feel that RiverGreen gives you better utility and even more upside in the long run. And now we're comparing 2-bedroom units at RiverGreen with 2-bedroom plus study units at Promenade Peak, again because they are almost the same size. So both layouts, again just now I mentioned the same size of 657 square feet, with some of Promenade Peak's layout will be slightly larger. The main difference is that RiverGreen comes with a dumbbell layout with an enclosed kitchen and a dedicated study area. Promenade Peak uses more of the traditional layout with an open concept kitchen. And the difference between these 4 floor plans is the placement of the kitchen, whether it is an L shape or it is a straight layout, or whether there's a slightly longer walkway. So if your budget is below 1.8 million, then Promenade Peak is really where you would be starting. For units going up to level 7, which is going for 1.67 million all the way to 1.8 million, which is roughly $100,000 cheaper than RiverGreen's 2+ study, even on the lowest floor. However, once Promenade Peak's 2-bedder start crossing the 1.8 million mark, which is from level 8 onwards, you are now overlapping with RiverGreen's 2+ study pricing. And at that point, topping up 100,000 for RiverGreen may actually feel like a meaningful upgrade, especially when you're getting an enclosed kitchen and a proper study space. However, that being said, right, RiverGreen's 2+ study tops out at 2.15 million, and from there is only a short jump to their 3-bedroom units, which starts from 2.25 million. So if you're already looking at that price range, right, it would be a fair question to ask, would it make more sense to just stretch a little bit and go for the full 3-bedder instead of settling for the 2+ study? So going into both projects, 2+ study side-by-side comparison. RiverGreen's 2-bed+ study is the most compact layout in this comparison, which is the 657 square feet, but it's laid out pretty much quite efficiently, and again you get the enclosed kitchen and the dedicated study space by the entrance, and it is a good fit if you are someone who likes a clear separation from the kitchen and the living area. Again, there are no windows in all the bathroom and kitchen, but that's pretty standard for all the 2-bedroom units that we've been seeing here. So for the 2+ study layout at Promenade Peak, you have BS1, BS2 and BS3, and they range from 764 square feet to 797 square feet. So they are all a little bit larger than RiverGreen's comparable 2-bed+ study layouts. They follow a little bit more traditional layout with bedrooms positioned at the back for privacy, and you still get an open concept kitchen, and the study is actually tucked away in a corner, which actually works well for a work from home setup. However, that being said, right, I feel that there's a good chunk of extra space seems to be taken up by the walkway, especially nearer to the entrance. So while the unit is actually bigger on paper, not all of it feels functionally useful. So if you're comparing based on value, right, then choice 1 would be RiverGreen, specifically from units from level 2 to 22, priced from 1.9 million to 2.1 million, and you're getting a 657 square feet compact 2-bed+ study, but you still get an enclosed kitchen and a proper study area. For a lot of people, especially those who are working from home or planning for a small family, I feel that the setup is really quite practical. So within this range, right, is probably the most efficient use of budget if you're looking for anything below 2.1 million that comes with proper zoning and an enclosed kitchen. So now if you look at Promenade Peak, we are looking at choice number 2. We are looking at level 2 to level 7 with prices ranging from 1.95 to 2.08 million. The unit sizes here at Promenade Peak is definitely larger, between 764 square feet to 797 square feet, but the layout does come with an open kitchen and a more conventional layout. While it is nice, when you break it down, right, it is arguably less efficient in terms of what you're getting for every dollar spent. Then there's also this midpoint consideration. Once RiverGreen crosses the level 23 mark, you are already hitting 2.109 million and above. And at that point, right, you are actually not too far off from the starting price of the 3-bedroom within the same development. So for $100,000 more, you could be upgrading to get a proper 3-bedroom instead. So we then move on to compare RiverGreen's 3-bedroom with Promenade Peak's 2+ study, because again, they have very similar square footages. RiverGreen's C1 layout, technically speaking, it is a 3-bedroom layout, but bedroom 3 is only 7 square meters. So to me, realistically, it's more of a study, a helper's room, or even a small guest room. You do get a proper enclosed kitchen, a household shelter, which is great for functionality. And the layout wise, it is pretty nice. All the bedrooms are tucked in one side, which actually helps with privacy. But overall, it doesn't really feel like a full 3-bedder family home. I feel that it's more of a 2+ study. So when we bring in Promenade Peak's 2-bed plus study layout, again 764 square feet to 797 square feet, officially labelled as 2 plus study units, having the open concept kitchen. However, all their bedrooms can fit a queen bed as compared to RiverGreen's. So what is the real takeaway? Even though RiverGreen label it as a 3-bedroom, right, the 3rd bedroom is quite tight. So if you're buying as a couple or a small family and only need the extra room occasionally, regardless if it's for guests, work from home or storage, I feel that this is really only functioning as a 2 plus study. And the only difference is that you are getting added bonus of the enclosed kitchen and some utility spaces, which is the home shelter. At this price point, right, the 2 plus study at Promenade Peak really needs to be at least $100,000 cheaper to make sense. Because if we are comparing RiverGreen's 3-bedroom unit, which starts from $2.25 million on the lower floors, the difference in functionality is quite significant. Given that RiverGreen gives you 3 proper enclosed bedrooms, an enclosed kitchen, and an overall layout that is more suitable for families and even for renting out. So on the other hand, right, Promenade Peak's 2 plus study, although they go all the way to 797 square feet, it is technically still a 2 plus study. And by level 21, you are already paying $2.14 million or more. So if let's say today you are paying the same quantum for one less room and an open concept kitchen, unless you are someone who really prefers Promenade Peak as a project, it is hard to argue that it gives better value, especially for own stay buyers. So RiverGreen's 3-bedroom might still make more sense. And when we take a look at the layout of RiverGreen's larger 3-bedroom units, it's 872 square feet and 883 square feet. And in this case, bedroom 3 is already at 8 square meters, which is big enough to fit a queen bed comfortably. This would genuinely feel like a proper 3-bedroom now, not just a 2 plus study in disguise. And we are comparing to the similar 2 plus study layouts and Promenade Peak with it. So if RiverGreen's 3-bedroom starts from $2.25 million and we use the usual $100,000 value gap as a guide, especially since bedroom 3 is now decently sized at 8 square meters and you get the enclosed kitchen, then any Promenade Peak's 2 plus study unit that is priced above $2.15 million will start to be a little bit hard to justify. Unless you have very specific preference, like you want to get to a certain level to get a view and don't mind paying more than $2.15 million for a 2 plus study, I feel that it doesn't quite add up because you can essentially get a full 3-bedder at RiverGreen just for a little bit more. And if we look at this pricing line, Promenade Peak units from level 21 onwards would cross that $2.15 million mark. So for most buyers, these higher floor 2 plus study units might feel less attractive as compared to what you can get at RiverGreen. So next, we are comparing RiverGreen's 4-bedroom versus Promenade Peak's 3-bedroom. So we start with RiverGreen's 4-bedroom, 980 square feet unit. On paper, it's labelled as a 4-bedder, but realistically speaking, again, it functions more like a 3-bedroom with a flexible space. In fact, if let's say you go down to the show flat today, you will see that they actually hack off this bedroom 4 wall to actually expand the master area, which already tells you that how most people would likely to be using this 4-bedroom space. And this layout, again, it has an enclosed kitchen, it has a home shelter, great for storage. And on top of that, because it sits on such a compact size, right, it will make the overall quantum very manageable. But there are a few things to note. Just now, like I mentioned, bedroom 4 is actually 7 square meters. From the floor plan itself, yes, you can squeeze in a queen bed. However, if you're thinking to add in a wardrobe, which by the way, you have to opt in if you want a wardrobe space, it is definitely going to feel very squeezy. And another thing to note is there is no yard. So for your laundry, you'll probably have to do at the balcony or get a dryer. Of course, you still get that dedicated dining space which is separate from your living area. However, it's not quite ideal if let's say you're planning to use bulkier furnitures. So if we compare that to Promenade Peak's 3-bedroom layout, the entire configuration is a little bit more vertical. For C1, you actually get a landscape balcony which links to both your living and kitchen area, and you have a home shelter as well. Similar to that of RiverGreen, there is no yard in both layouts. So The kitchen is also linked to the balcony via this breakfast bar or bar counter, which is, I think, a nice touch for ventilation, and if you like to host, probably it's a good counter. The bedrooms here are reasonably sized and they are all separated into one corner for privacy as well. So when we look into RiverGreen's 4-bedroom layout, it's 980 square feet, starting from $2.8 million. But if we are being honest, right, this is not functioning as a full-fledged 4-bedder because bedroom 4 is only at 7 square meters. And in the show flat, it's actually hacked off to give more bedroom space. So in practice, right, this unit really functions more like a 3-bedroom with a little bit more flexibility. That is why we actually compare it to the 3-bedroom options in Promenade Peak, and we need to factor in a fair benchmark would be to price the Promenade Peak's 3-bedroom at least $100,000 less, which means that at anything below $2.7 million would then make more sense in terms of value. And based on this price list, right, the 3-bedroom units at level 5 at Promenade Peak are sitting at around $2.68 million. So those would actually fall into the more acceptable price zone, especially if you're cross-shopping between RiverGreen, because at 2.7 million mark, right, you are likely to be topping up just 100,000 more to get a 4-bedroom in RiverGreen. So now let's shift gears and dive into the premium tiers at Promenade Peak. So from here onwards, we are only going to be focusing on Promenade Peak's larger units, their 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom and 5-bedroom layouts, all of which comes with private lift access. So this part of the analysis is less about compact efficiency and more about spaciousness, privacy, and how these layouts can cater to own-stay families that are looking for the next level experience. So one of the key factors just now, we have actually brought this up, is that we are referencing Juniper Hill, which is one of the rare projects where smaller and larger units actually share the same stack. It gives us a clearer understanding how developers might price the different bedroom types relative to each other. So what we found from this is that the larger unit, in this case, which is the 4-bedroom, was priced at 0.8% lower per square foot as compared to the 3-bedroom in the same stack. And that's despite it being a larger and more premium layout. So if we are going to use this guide to model Promenade Peak's premium stacks, for my projection, we will shave off 0.8% for 3-bedroom with private lift, and 1% off the 4-bedroom with private lift, and 2% off the 5-bedroom with private lift. So that gives us a more grounded sense of what buyers might be expected to pay, not just based on the absolute size, but also relative in value. So now let's talk about the 3-bedroom premium layouts at Promenade Peak. So both types CP1 and CP2 are generous in size. They are standing at 1,195 square feet and 1,163 square feet respectively, and obviously both of them come with private lift. And you get a very nice landscape dining, which is great for hosting, and all the bedrooms are actually tucked in one corner, which adds on to the privacy. There is also provisions this time for utility, yard and WC, which is necessary for most families with a helper. However, here's the thing. When it comes to bigger units in River Valley, most buyers would tend to lean towards layouts like this. And that's why we think that Promenade Peak has the upper hand when it comes to the premium segment. You can even see this from the past transactions at Riviera. The larger 3-bedroom unit types, right, which are similar in size to what we are having here, even with no private lifts, right, they have actually pulled in profits of $479,000 all the way to $550,000. Which then tells us there is actually demand for well-sized, functional family units in this district. RiverGreen, on the other hand, is clearly focusing more on compact layouts and smaller bedroom counts. It serves a different buyer segment. So for those who are specifically looking at this area to settle their family or buy a large format unit with better long-term value, Promenade Peak will start to look like the stronger pick. So moving on to Promenade Peak's 4-bedroom premium with private lift. And DP1 and DP2 are both 1,421 square feet. They are both similar in layouts. You get the landscape living and dining, 4 proper sized bedrooms, an enclosed kitchen with yard and utility room. So DP3 on the other hand is actually a lot larger at 1,582 square feet, and the additional 160 square feet goes into the widening of common areas, especially in the kitchen where you have this countertop in the middle, and it reminds me of the layout at Pine Tree Hill, and this is extremely beautiful in my opinion, where you can actually slide open the glass door of the kitchen to merge in together with your living and dining space when you're not cooking, and you can enclose it when you are cooking. So overall, if you're looking for a family size unit in River Valley with a touch of exclusivity and better use of space, DP1 and DP2 will work well. But if you're after that openness and more premium feel, maybe you entertain more guests or maybe you want more space, then DP3 would be worth the jump. And I personally feel that this layout would be the preferred 4-bedroom layout for future resale buyers. Lastly, we go into the 5-bedroom with private lift. And this is the only 5-bedroom layout here at Promenade Peak, standing at 1,884 square feet. And the first thing that stands out is that how well zoned the spaces are. The private lift opens up into your generous living and dining area. So it is wide and open and runs across the full width of the balcony, which gives the space great light and airflow. And the kitchen, right, which is similar to that of the 4-bedroom premium layout, where you can actually slide open the glass door of the kitchen to merge into the living and dining space when you are not cooking and enclose it when you are. And this layout is perfect for hosting or just to open up for more space. And all of the 5 bedrooms are actually tucked to one side of the unit, which gives a clear separation between the resting zone and the living areas. The master bedroom comes with a walk-in wardrobe, and the toilet comes with a his and her sink and a bathtub, which feels very premium for a 5-bedroom. And you also get a junior master, and actually even bedroom 4 is ensuite as well. You also have a powder room for your guests outside to use. My only issue with this floor plan is that the bathrooms, they do not have windows other than the one in the master. However, overall, for this layout, it really caters to families who want long-term comfort. It's not just about having 5 rooms, it's about how this is being arranged and how the space flows. And this would really feel like a true landed home in the sky option for River Valley. So if you are considering either Promenade Peak or RiverGreen, this video is a must watch. Why? Because most serious buyers exploring these two will end up placing checks on both sides, and when balloting day comes, your queue number and budget will dictate your move. You will not have time to compare everything on the spot. You need to know in advance which layout gives you a better value, which project aligns better with your investment or lifestyle goals. This video will help you make the decision confidently when it matters the most. So if you have found this comparison useful, and if you're serious about Promenade Peak or RiverGreen, make sure you're in the loop. I'll be sharing real-time updates, balloting tips, or even early alerts on my Telegram channel. Just scan the QR code or you can reach out to me directly. When the launch day comes, the last thing you want to be is second guessing. So let's make sure you're fully prepared to act fast and make the right call. So you can drop me a message at 81021221 if you want to book a show flat preview slot, or if you need help with strategy or unit selection, and I'll see you in the next one.